My name's Jeff Morgan. I drove 150 miles to be here tonight. One thing I've not heard discussed when we discuss budget issues is the breakdown of the family. There was a study done in about 2009 talked about the taxpayer expense for Texans about the breakdown of the family and unwed childbearing. And it was $4 billion, and that's almost 10 years ago. And it's an issue that we're not addressing. If you look at the statistics of what happens with either children coming from broken homes or fatherless families, I believe if we could address those, some of these other issues that were mentioned would start to address themselves.
Government cannot solve all problems, and this is not something we can pass a law to fix.
I think on some of this, though, if you don't mind me just very, very briefly interjecting, we allow no-fault divorce, which is actually unilateral divorce, with 60 days, and there is no due process protection to the individual who does not want it. Because in 100% of the instances in which a divorce is filed against somebody who does not want to be the participant in that divorce, he or she loses. We have Fifth Amendment protections and 14th Amendment protections. Our laws in the state of Texas allow this to take place in violation of the 14th Amendment. So this is a constitutional issue, and it's a constitutional issue that we are not addressing, which is causing a lot of these other issues. And I will agree with what you're saying, but there are some legislative fixes that we can stick into place to help curtail it because we're allowing it.
I'll just address it real fast. I had 3 bills drafted related to divorce. The bill that I thought could get the most traction was a 6-month wait after you file. And it didn't. And I ran it up the flagpole for a lot of different senators, and it's just not going to get a lot. There were some bills filed in the House. I concur completely. We can pass legislation that helps. It doesn't stop it, but it can help.
Right.
Most people don't realize the #1 cause of poverty in the United States, if not the world, is divorce. It's divorce. It's a single-parent household, and it's very preventable, right? And so we should, as a state, focus on keeping people married, keeping them married and keeping them together. They can earn 2 wages. But as Senator Hall was saying, if you look back at the history of the United States of America, what was it our founders talked about extensively? Was to defend the republic, you had to have a virtuous society. You can't have liberty without virtue, just like Senator Hall said. So it's important. It's part of the process, and we need to get back to that after we got out of our schools. Is where a lot of things really start falling apart in our country.
Yes, there are some things that can be done. We've talked about them. Senator Huffines did have some bills that would address them. We do some things with the way we hand out money to encourage the breakup of the family at the federal level that I would like to see go away, and there are some things that can be done that make a bad situation worse, and we will work on that, and I'll be glad to sit down again with you and talk about this some more to get into specifics of it.
Yes, John.
So you mentioned that Texas spends $400 million a year on border security. There was a study done in 2008 by Benjamin Scafidi, and he talked about the breakdown of the family and unwed childbearing. At that time, his estimate was that it cost Texans $4 billion, 10 times the amount that we're talking about right now in 2008. What can you do to help stop, or what do you think should be done to help stop the breakdown of the families, and also to make sure that our children have a strong future? Because one of the greatest gifts we can give them is a strong, intact family. And yet in Texas, that's becoming increasingly hard because of our laws, which make the breakdown of the family so easy. Thank you.
Well, let me tell you that one of the problems I think that we have throughout, not necessarily Texas, but throughout the United States, is we have a nanny state. We have people looking to the government for solutions and answers, and as Ronald Reagan said, the government's the problem, not the answer. And I think if we look to ourselves and to our churches and to our faith, we will find the answers there. It's about prayer. It's about making sure that everybody who's been married, we all know that there's some good times and there's some bad times. You just got to make it work.
I guess my point is that in Texas, the laws encourage the breakdown of families rather than stop them. So I agree with you what you're saying about pastors and churches and everything else, but when you have a situation with a divorce in which the respondent is always found guilty and always loses 100% of the time, There are no due process protections guaranteed to us in the 14th Amendment. I think that that's an issue that we have to address because the state, as much as we say otherwise, is becoming an enemy of the family. So that's where my position is.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm going to do some more research on that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. We definitely don't want that to occur. We want families to stay strong. When I build communities, we focus on making sure that the communities create memories and are family-oriented so that they continue to look good and are successful. So I appreciate that.
Thank
Yes.
you.